What are you saying, Aisha?
No, I said I'm going to start recording.
No,
It's not recording
I
now.
just wanted to check. It was Sarah. I just wanted to check what is on your screen, what people can see.
We can see THF, Salesforce, Unit, MIS, the big picture.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Hello,
Very good.
hello once more, and good morning, and welcome to this webinar that is entitled THF, a Digital Club Community Organization. I am Clyde Williams, I'm Director of Shonet. Thank you for choosing to share your morning with us. Shonet has actually worked with Tottenham Hotspur Foundation for the past 4 years. Club community organizations have a vital role to play in each community as you use the power of football to change lives. We are delighted to have with us today Sari Banja, Chief Executive Officer, and Kefian Davis, our Salesforce System Administrator, who will share with us how Tottenham Hotspur Foundation is utilizing Salesforce technology to support the delivery of the foundation strategy. And with that, I would like to hand over to Sarah and Kefian, who will actually present for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And then we will leave enough room for questions at the end. And we don't intend to keep you for more than 45 minutes. Here you go, Sarah and Kefian.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through, first of all, spend 5 to 8 minutes, hopefully no more than 8 minutes, giving you big picture perspective of really who we are and why we've been approached is a management information system throughout the whole business, and then really just drill down on that management information system. So look at some of the data that I look at as chief executive, and as well, and the program managers and the project managers may look at in managing their own performance in terms of what they're doing. If, whilst I go through this presentation, because I'm going to really just talk us through the presentation, so you're just going to have to bear with us while we take about 20 minutes to do that. If anything comes to mind or any questions you want to ask or any points of clarification, please do put them into the chat room. So my assumption is that everybody can, that the reception's good and everybody can hear me clearly. So the first thing I just want to say on this is that, as you can see through that logo box on the right-hand side, this is obviously about the foundations. It's all designed specifically for this foundation, Salesforce platform, and with our partners Shonet. And I do want to just emphasize that I would say the most important thing in this being in the system is actually the partner rather than the system itself. And I think that is of fundamental importance, because for me as a CEO, I want to know that if I'm investing in something, that I am going to get a return from it, and I have a good sense of what this is going to cost me without any surprises. And this is particularly important as this is a fundamental part of our business now. So in terms of, I'm going to move on to the next slide and just tell you about our charitable purpose. So basically, and I imagine quite a few of you on here are either football clubs or sports clubs. So our charitable purpose, we are a separate organisation to the club, a registered charity in our own right. I have a board membership of 4, with shortly increasing that to about 6. 2 of those board members are directors of the club, and 2 of them are independent. We basically use the power of football and sports to bring around socioeconomic regeneration, and you can see those 6 bullet points there. And of crucial importance to us within the communities that we serve is community cohesion, social inclusion, equalities and fairness, and there are underpinning drivers. What this map is showing you is a map of London. It is based on the index of multiple deprivation. And one of the things that we tend to do in the UK is we always talk about our areas about how deprived they are or how least prosperous they are. There are 340 country areas across the UK, and where we are based, you can see that image of our beautiful stadium. Inside the top right-hand corner of that parallelogram, which is the London Borough of Haringey. And you can see that beneath that, there's some really dark areas. Those dark shaded areas actually reflect the extent of deprivation as measured by government in London. There's 30 London boroughs. If you can see that strip of darkness, that is where the least prosperous areas are in London, and where we're based, where we're sitting now, Kofi and myself, we're sitting in the stadium complex, and that is the 5th most deprived ward out of about 340 wards in the country. And if you can see right in the centre of that map, there is that little area of paleness there. That is the most prosperous area in London, and it appears in terms of prosperity, it is probably round about 340, actually out of about 343 areas across the UK. So cheek by jowl within London, within a 15-minute train journey, we're in one of the poorest areas, and we can travel into the most affluent areas of the country. Now, for the foundation, those boroughs that I've highlighted, Barnet, Enfield, Haringey, Waltham Forest, they're the areas that we, Tottenham Hotspur Foundation, really try to deliver our goodness and where our is coming from, where we try to bring benefit to the public. But that isn't just about, we don't just limit all our work there. We are part of, obviously, the global brand, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and we're part of the sector as well. So we try to bring benefit not only to our local communities, which are the communities of the club, but also to all the club supporters and all those who follow football, love football, or want to get into football, and also the sector as a whole. This slide, a little bit busy. The main basis of this slide is our charitable aims and objectives. You can see that green finger that's pointing down to those 4 boxes highlighted in yellow. They are the strategic themes. So I tend to look at this on the basis that, excuse the analogy, but if I wanted to eat a bit of beef, I'm hoping nobody comes and brings me a whole cow, that they'll bring me parts. We have to break it up into parts that are digestible. So to translate our objectives into what we do, I've got these 4 strategic themes: football and sport, health and well-being, character building, jobs and careers. And then within each of those strategic themes or overarching programme areas, there are a range of projects. And they're all working towards our medium-term strategy. So I started with the foundation in April 2018. By April 2019, the board had agreed a new 5-year strategy that would guide us and which we would pursue. And so it's a 5-year strategy, and the overall goals that we'll achieve by 2024 is that individuals, community and place with whom we interact and engage will have better health and well-being. They'll have a more positive brand, whether that's as an individual, becoming the best they can be, or whether it's place or community. They'll have better prospects and be pursuing and fulfilling their potential. So there are 4 overall goals. And I've highlighted individuals in particular because it is individuals that obviously make up community, and it's individuals that are place-based to their own neighbourhoods. And everything that we do links to the Salesforce system, all centred individuals. So everything flows from an individual. That is just really giving you a very high-level overview of what I've just spoken about. Our medium-term strategy goals, which are informed by our purpose, our 4 strategic themes, and at the moment we currently have about 29 different projects on the go. What this shows slide, and this is from an organisational management and accountability perspective, we can see there that our medium-term strategy and goals, that is owned by the board. Accountable, it's the CEO. This is the first box that you can see there that the finger's pointing in. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. And my senior leadership and management team. So we're responsible for that. In turn, there's 2 heads of programme, and I hold them responsible for the strategic themes and delivering the projects that we've agreed within those strategic themes. So that's that middle box there. And then the 3rd box, which is underneath the projects, in turn, those programme heads hold the project leads accountable for quality delivery. Just overlaying this now with the emphasis on individuals. Really, really important. We've seen that, how it links through to our strategy. Under the strategic themes, I've just got some images there of people participating in different things. And obviously in our projects, it is all about individuals participating in those projects. The more individuals that we can get to participate and engage with us, the more successful we will be. So it's about engagement and sustaining engagement. And those images on the left-hand side simply show, when I'm talking about individuals, I'm really talking about our participants. Left-hand side in that sort of tree shaped, and then underneath that, I'm also talking about our stakeholders and partners, which will include our funders, it includes the community, so everyone else that we engage with. Now, sitting behind all of that, so you can see in the top half of this slide is what I've just spoken about, but sitting behind it, underneath it, driving it forward are our corporate centre functions. So these are basically headquarter functions, comms and new business, HR and people, equalities, diversity and inclusion, finance, admin and data, safeguarding and QA, and governance overall, which incorporates performance. In terms of from a systems perspective, first of all, the finger on the bottom I'm looking at, we have systems for HR, this will be the same as you in the other business, finance, for safeguarding, and all of those systems for us as being part of Spurs, we use Spurs' systems. Our own system, our own bespoke system is obviously what we're talking about today. So if you go above that dotted line, you can see that the first, the foundation itself, we have our own management information system that we've developed. But what I'm trying to denote here is that I took the approach when I started to decide that I'm going to keep the two systems completely separate. I am not going to fully automated integrate our own management information system with the club systems. And that was a conscious and intentional decision. And in particular, it will, by having this approach, it actually protects the integrity and the security of the club system, who by their nature are very, very precious about any data. But also what it enables us to do is then enable us to be as variable and flexible as we want by creating our own system, which we do interact with those other systems. And this interaction, what this is showing is that along this dotted line, this red symbol is actually a padlock, and it's showing that there's no data can move forward or will move through between the two unless it is done manually. And this is here over on the right-hand side, that picture of the hand, that we can manually extract any data we want from those club systems and put them into our own management information systems. And this is not an onerous task for us. We're a £3 million turnover business. I employ about 60 permanent full-time equivalent staff, and I have a pool of about 20 sessional football coaches. And I would say that something like 80% of my money is spent on people. So that's really just the general overview, taking us from our corporate objectives all the way through, obviously, to how we structure ourselves and the data and the processes that we use. So quickly now moving on to our management information system, and specifically what it looks like for us. So we now have to start looking at some our system itself and our dashboards. And I'm going to use an illustrative example using KICS, which is all about participation. Our client is the Premier League Charitable Fund for this, the PLCF, and people can participate in KICS. They can just come along, turn up, subject to having registered with us first of all, or it can be through the, and the other project I want us to look at by way of an example is a fitness project that we call Move for You, hence the M4Y. The overall outcome from this project, the overall goal is health improvement of the participants. And these are participants that have actually been diagnosed with an illness. And it may be when we first started Move For You, this was very much, the illness was very much about cancer and referrals from oncologists and GPs. Actually, since COVID, we have now started to expand this for those that are suffering from long COVID. We're commissioned by NHS CCG, and I should also say that we're expanding it to include weight management as well. And to participate in this, it is mainly through a referral process, through the oncologist or through the GP or through a social prescriber. However, we increasingly are taking people who self-refer. If you move on to the next one. What this really just tries to capture are some of the metrics that we measure for the projects. So for KICS, it's all about participation, ongoing participation. The more we can get people who don't play football to want to play football and start loving the game from the age of 8 upwards, the better. And the more that we can take them through a whole pathway so that they stay with us and stay with us forevermore and stay loving the beautiful game forevermore, the better. But we also want them to be good corporate citizens. We want them to contribute to community cohesion and social inclusion and equalities and fairness, and we drive participation and social action to achieve that. So those things that we measure, some of those things are shown on the left-hand side for KICS. And for Move For You, which remember is a referral program, it's time limited, it's 12 weeks. The main thing that we measure here is we measure how quickly have we responded when we've been contacted to say, can we see someone? And the other things that we measure their health with the criteria set by the NHS when they first join us in month 1. We measure their health 6 weeks after the programme, so midway through in month 2. We measure their health again at the end of the programme after 12 weeks in month 3. And then 6 months later, we measure their progress as well. So I'm going to look at our dashboard now. So I'm going to ask Kathy Ann to quickly switch in to our live system of Salesforce. She's a tech guru, so she's going to be able to do this for us. So I want to start off. First of all, that was fantastic. Thank you, Kathy Ann. Before we, any project can actually start being delivered, there's a whole risk assessment process. And part of that risk assessment process, after the project's been approved, after all the logistics have been worked out, and the manager says, okay, we're all ready to go, it has to go through a final approval gateway, a risk assessment approval gateway. And simply what you can see there, with that dial that shows 190, it shows that we've actually, through our gateway process, that we've risk assessed and passed 190 different sessions linked to our projects. And you can see our range of products on the right-hand side. Thank you. So you can see we've got a care leavers project. We've got health and wellbeing Move For You, which is highlighted. There'll be KICS there. There you go. We're highlighting KICS project. So this information is there. Every time it passes through an approval process, it is logged in Salesforce. The whole approval process is done through our Salesforce system, and that will automatically increase. So the next one that's done is 191. And you can see on that right-hand side that outstanding gateways where project leads put through projects, but they've not been able to be progressed for various reasons. If we can go on now and look at KICS, I think. Okay, so this is the dashboard for KICS. And what this dashboard tells us, and obviously we've designed this all ourselves, is our own dashboard that we wanted. I wanted it looking a little bit like the odometer in a car. And if we look at this very first, whoops, where have we gone to? If we look at this very first one, our target of participants for KICS is 1,550 participants over the year. What this first dial shows us, which is called engaged participants, which shows that at this point in time, we've got 579 participants against that overall target of 1,550. And I should say, by the way, that this is not our live system. We're using actual data specifically for this presentation. Later on, we'll see that if a participant wants to engages with us, they turn up at the football session, and at that football session, when they turn up, the coach looks for their name on their handheld device. They've got an app that takes them straight into Salesforce, the coach has, looks for their name because the coach will be expecting them because they're booked in advance, and ticks off their attendance through their handheld device, an iPad or phone. And when they tick off their attendance, so let's just pretend Katie Ann turns up to play football. When she turns up, they tick off her attendance. That engaged participant will 80. You can see the other targets there. Female participation, targets 400. You see how we're doing according to this sandbox. If we go down onto the bottom row, we can see here, for example, volunteering, that our target is that we get 40 engaged in volunteering and a social action. And at this point in time that we would have, as you can see in that example, 8 or 9 engaged. Now, as a CEO, I will use this information in a particular way, and I'll discuss this with the head of program area when I meet with her regularly. And the head of program area, being responsible for the project lead for KICS, will sit down regularly with their product leads to see what's going well, what's going better than expected, not so well, to enable us to determine what action we want to take. You can see underneath there, if we can move up a little bit on that presentation. You can see some of the data we keep, participant data, whether they have a disability. And if they do have a disability, we actually ask them to identify their disabilities. We've got a target number for participants with disabilities. And so we monitor that program. We keep records of all the ethnicities of any participant, and every participant, I should say, that, and that's even if they prefer not to say. Now, that is really important to us. In the 4 boroughs that I serve, we've probably got population of between 1.1 and 1.2 million. At least 35% of that population is white British. 25% to 30% are white BAME, Black Asian Minority Ethnic, and the remainder 40% are visible BAME. And that's really important for us, understanding that data, to know who we're reaching. And that percentage actually shifts the younger the age group, that becomes more visible BAME. So really understanding our population, how are we attracting them? Are we going out where those populations are based? This becomes really important for us. So if you move up the slide. This is the dashboard for our health and wellbeing program, HWB, Move for You. So in this example, the data we put in here, we've had 136 referrals. Remember, it's a referral program. It's ostensibly a referral program. You get referred by your doctor, your oncologist, your or social prescriber. So in this model, which we're looking at, it says just immediately above it, this is between 2021 and 2022. Remember, it's spoof data we've got in here, but in this data we show we've got 136 participants. And the requirement with the contract with the NHS is to contact a certain number within 72 hours. So in this model, it says that we've contacted 11 within 72 hours. I would say that looking at these numbers, thank you, Katie Ann, because this shows that we're failing on our target. Because it's actually, we probably need to contact about 75% within 72 hours. But that shows us there that there's 11 that's been contacted. If we wanted to, we could click in to that view report. We're not going to, because I'm just mindful of the time, and look at all the names of those participants. And then that next box is the aggregate attendance over the whole of the 12-week program. Remember, it's a 12-week program. We want participants to come once a week. Before lockdown, before COVID, this was very much group sessions. People came out to us. What's happened during COVID and since COVID, that it's very much been moved towards more of a one-to-one session, very tailored one-to-one from people's homes. They're still not yet in a situation where they want to come out, and actually they feel much happier doing it from their homes. It's a move to virtual. If you go down a bit so we can see the Move For You questionnaires, what that big box is showing is how many questionnaires have been completed. So that first blue record count of 14 shows us that in the month one Move for You, we had 14 questionnaires completed. And then basically it tells us that record count for the next period, month 2, and then it'll take us on, it takes us on to month 3, which is the 12-week period. Then I believe we could go on to 6 months after they've left the programme. And I'm just re-emphasising the importance of the individual and the participant to us, because it is not just about participating in the programme, is what do they do afterwards? Are we really making the outcomes and the difference that we're trying to achieve? If you can go down a little bit more, Kayfian, thank you. And so a lot of this information here is the dashboard information that the head of programme and the project manager for Move for You will look at, and they'll spend a lot of time looking at this because that's what they need to know. I only need to know at high level as the chief executive, but you can see how many referrals they've got each month, then tells them about the actual participants, the sessions that they have. And if we go down a little bit more on that bottom line, you can see there it talks about participant postcode, ethnicity per postcode, and age per postcode. Really crucial information that we pass back to NHS. It helps us to look at how are we contributing to tackling some of those health inequalities in our areas, and they are very, very stark. One side of the borough can have a life expectancy 20 years less than the other side of the borough. And in terms of the quality of life, if you're on the east side of the borough, which is where we're located, your quality of life from the age of 50 upwards is likely to deteriorate because of your health and the comorbidity issues that you would have suffered. That is not the same as if you lived over the more affluent part of the west of the borough. So with regards to postcode, if we can move on a little bit more, we can see who I'm referring to. If we can move on to the next thing. What's really important, if you carry on down, I'm looking for the map really. What I want to share with you is that one of the things that we have attached with our Salesforce project, our MIS, is a geographical information system, which enables us to look at everything graphically. And what we've got here, we're using an example from KICS, and it's a KICS session that actually took place in the London Borough of Waltham Forest. What is Douglas Eyre? Okay. Douglas Eyre is the name of the community centre we use. We use sports centres and facilities across our 4 boroughs. We don't have a dedicated one for ourselves, so we travel across the 4 boroughs. We can see here that the London Borough of Waltham Forest. Could you just identify where the stadium would be there? Do you know where it would be? No, up. No, it wouldn't. Up.
Our stadium.
Yeah, our stadium. Okay, there it is. Thank you. There, right, brilliant. So our stadium's just about there. London Borough of Waltham Forest on the right-hand side, as we've seen. We deliver a KICS session there, and when you see all those colours around it, I believe that's where the participants live and they come from. So again, this is really important for us because we're able to tell the different boroughs if we have participants from their area. We're also, and this particularly applies to Haringey and Enfield, where we're physically located, because they're always very, very keen to know distance travel from their residents to activities that we do. It also enables us to determine where is there a gap. We're also able to look at our communities based on ethnicity, and to be able to target particular areas. So that's a geographical information system. Is there anything else we're showing, Kayfian, in this presentation? Thank you. So every session that we do, so as well as the Salesforce application, linked to it, I've already spoken about the GeoPoint, the geographical information system. We've also got fully integrated it into as a calendar. So any project or any session that is being held, the manager will put the information into our calendar. You can see on the left-hand side all the projects that are there on the left-hand side, and we've highlighted specifically for this purpose the KICS sessions that are going on through May. and the Move for You sessions that are going on through May. And you can see those on that calendar. And if we were to click on those, I'm not asking us to click on them, if we were to click on them, we'd get all the information, including who's booked to participate in them. Now, in terms of booking to participate, first thing is anybody that is interested in doing anything with Tottenham Hotspur Foundation needs to register with us. It's a one-time registration. This is an example of the electronic form created. So this can just get sent to people. They can access it through a QR code and they complete all their information. So register with us. And also, they also tell us on this if they want to participate in a particular session. We will soon be launching a new website, which gives that access as well. It's an electronic form, so we capture all of that information from the participants coming in. And all of this has saved a huge amount of paper and gives us all the information we need at our fingertips to enable to analyse as much as possible. So I've gone a little bit over our time. So I think I'll pause there and we can leave it for any questions that you want to come through with. Clive, back to you, or Aisha.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. We have a question from David Dunwell. He says, does Salesforce allow the same kind of mapping for participants? Could you answer that? Okay, yeah.
Yes. So basically the mapping, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it has been a little bit laggy.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you imagine Salesforce as a database, I look at these things very simply. I'm actually, look at any database as being a fantastic version of a spreadsheet, because whatever you put in a cell, you can extract that information and you can display that as long as you've got a postcode or a geolocator linked to it. So in the case for our system, everything is based on an individual place. So we have postcodes for everything. We can identify anything we want by postcode, anything that's gone in the system. So yes, it is as flexible as you want it to be. If it doesn't have a postcode, obviously you can't show it on the GIS.
I hope that answers your question, David. I'm going to unmute everybody now, and then if anybody has any questions, they can come through as well. So everybody's unmuted now. So if anybody has any questions, or if you want to post in the chat, please feel free to. Clyde, did you have anything to add as well? Okay, so Jason White's asking
So the question about
this, but do you use Salesforce to map facilities too?
yes, so we can show all our facilities. This is all real time, so I think Kayfian is going to do this now. You can see this her in action. We'll be looking for the venues that we use, and they should all pop up on the map. It's a fantastic, the whole GIS brings it to life and makes it very easy for anyone to see. So there you go, they're all the different venues that we use. And actually what you can see there, that we really do a cluster around Haringey, around the stadium, Haringey, east of Haringey, which is Tottenham, and around Enfield, because that is where the highest levels of deprivation are. That's where we really target. And you can see there, Haringey shapes like a parallelogram, and you can see a lot of our services are there. So we know that as we grow, we've got a big push in field. We're also looking, using this mapping, we've got another one that enables us to identify all existing sports facilities around, so we can see where maybe there needs to be more, and that helps inform us of our work in terms of trying to develop new facilities as well. Can you overlay this map with our, yeah, you can layer this map as much as you want to. So you can put a layer on this map, which is of all the areas listed in the index of multiple deprivation. I spoke about 340 areas measured. Actually, that can be broken down even further to 4,000 areas across the country. So you can layer the map as much as you want to. I should say that, you know, one of the things, what's really, really important, first of all, with designing these systems is to try and design it so it's something that has got longevity and has got flexibility. And basically, I think this product, if I think of it from a pricing perspective, this product per year probably works out at about £350 to £400 per user. I have 60 people registered to use it, so it's my permanent staff, so they could all access it and use it. And that cost that I've spoken about includes the GIS within that, includes the form assembly, the electronic forms. It includes the service, the annual service fee, which with ShowNet. And we agreed very early on at the beginning, one of my selection criteria for going with ShowNet is that what I didn't want to be put in a situation was to get this fantastic system, then any time I wanted to do any amend or any change or things like that, they're going to whack me with a bill. And ShowNet do not do that. Actually, they are our partner. They are partner for the length of this project. And so when recently, about 4 months ago, my Salesforce administrator, permanent CHF member of staff left, moved, went to, in fact, got so much experience, he went off to Ghent Football Club in Belgium, where he's from. But I asked ShowNet to be able to provide us some support. And so Kayfian has been with us now for 4 or 5 months. And Kayfian was part of the development team in the first place. So this is absolutely crucial for us, that we know that we can develop and grow, and it grows with us, and that doesn't then lead to huge additional costs for us.
Sorry, so we've got a few more questions. So one was from Susan. She asked, thanks Sarah, very informative. Can we embed KPIs for any new project?
Yeah, hi Susan. Yes, we can. So basically what happens is when a new project starts, and this could be any project, so we could do our, let's just pretend we're doing our own version. We're starting off a THF version 2 Inspires, where this is not paid for but from the Premier League's money, but it's very similar to Inspires. It's paid for from our own funding, and we've got some partners working with us. So we'll have some additional KPIs. We just add them. They just get added. We say to KPI one another, add this to our dashboard. So this is really incredibly flexible. And I think it typically takes, if I say to KPI or the to KPI, we're going to do this project, want to have the dashboard up, and KPI will receive this information anyway as part of our gateway process. But typically, I don't think we're waiting longer than 48 hours for that to be up and ready to be used. And the main way that gets used, as soon as we have a participant who's booked to go to that session, it then starts being populated on the screen.
I think also want to bring attention to where these targets on the dashboard come from are actually the KPI records saved to the project kits. And then once you've finished your term, you can then snapshot these the actuals into the KPI report and keep that there.
I should also add for your benefits. So for those of you that professional footballing network, we also have to be providing information to Premier League. I think it has to EFL as well, using the system views. So what we've managed to do is integrate and obviously PLC have all that information through the view system. So we've managed to integrate a way of capturing that information through our Salesforce, and then it's a relatively easy thought to get it into views. And we're delighted actually that PLCF are going down the Salesforce route for their MIS, because that actually facilitates an even easier transfer of that data.
Thank you.
Okay, so I can see a question. And Adam is saying, in terms of how all the data is inputted into Salesforce, is this split amongst all staff, or does it tend to fall on just a few individuals? Did you have any difficulty getting staff to engage with doing this to begin with? Okay, 2 great questions there. So first of all, I was bearing in mind, I'm not a techie person at all. And when I came into the foundation in 2018, one of the things I asked was, I said, oh, give me some data, I need to look at how we're performing. And I got data from the central team, but then when I went and spoke to the actual project managers, I said, okay, this seems to be how you're going. They said, no, they don't recognise those figures. And so, and as you know, the more human there is with these things, the more that there is the chance for there's misentry of numbers, that it's not necessarily owned. So one of the key things that in the working in ShowNet is that I wanted this to be a system that everyone has to use, and it is the owner of the data that inputs that information into Salesforce. Now, the only exception to this is, and this isn't from our perspective of our staffing, was that the other thing that I wanted it to do, and we went live in July 2020, is again, just to make efficiency, I just thought, well, why can't the participants themselves register direct? Or even book on direct and be accepted directly? Why couldn't it all be done electronically? So remember now what people can do if they want to participate, they do it themselves through the QR code or the electronic form. So that automatically, that they're going to attend the session, automatically is done by the participant. Doesn't always work. Sometimes they want us to do it for them, which is fine. But that's done by the participant. The participant turning up and being checked in is done by the member of staff. So everybody has to do it, and it's their job to do it within that. Did I have any difficulty in getting staff to engage with doing this to begin with? Yes, I did, to the extent of that, with the benefit of hindsight, and we've just reintroduced this now, what would happen is that as people introduce things, they might do spelling mistakes, they might do shortcuts with things. So actually, you didn't necessarily get a consistent, comprehensive picture with it. So we've streamlined that by having drop-down boxes for a lot of things. But the main area that I've had difficulty with staff, not so much to do with the KPIs and the performance, because they like it. They can see it, particularly in real time. It's fantastic. They can do all their analytics with it. Was we also use a system, as I said, we use it for our headquarter functions. We also use it for time recording. So all our delivery staff need to be able to identify what projects they work on based on sort of 30-minute-a-day tranches. And this is because we have many of our staff, they don't just work on one project, they might work on 3 different projects during the day or during the week. So they're asked to complete, have you got a can you just show the entry?
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, where they would show that. I'll just show this, what they would come across. So what we asked all staff to do, they have to have done it for the week and have it completed by, I think it's midday on a Tuesday, because then we use this information to enable us to apportion our costs appropriately. Whoops, these are real names we've got here, aren't they? But basically, what a member of staff has to do, sorry? Okay, what a member of staff has to do here, so we've got somebody here, they'll put on, can you click on the project? So this one, they've worked on kits, but there will be a drop box come up with all the other projects that they could work on. And they would put their half hour or hour, there we go, then put how many hours they worked on it. And so what that would enable us to do, so let's just, so this example is Amari. In fact, some of you may well know Amari. So this will tell us that Amari might say during a day, he's worked 6 hours on kicks and 2 hours on kicks targeted. And so we have all that analytics and that data, and that helps us a lot with looking at what are the costs, what are the resources that we've in our different products. So I hope that helps. But that is the area that we've had to sometimes clamp down on staff, fill out your timesheets.
Sarah, I want to thank you. Aisha, are there any other questions? Because we're running overtime.
Yes, there was one more from Martin Winter. It says, does this display reporting in Salesforce work when data is transferred over via a separate CRM system, such as Sports Fusion, when integration is activated?
Personally, I don't know whether the Salesforce people can answer that, because I don't use another CRM system. However, any data that we want to have in it, because it is a database like an Excel spreadsheet, that from any database you can export into a particular format. So your Sports Fusion should enable you to export. And I would say, as long as you've got the naming structure right for the participant. So, and that's what's really key, have that naming structure where you've got first name, last name, and you've got your protocols of how, if somebody was called St. Clair, is it ST space Claire or is it SINT? So you've got that consistency. you should be able to match information together and it be presented here. Thank you very much. There you go. I've learned something from showing that, you see, about how it uses data. So it should be very capable with actually any system that can export in that format, and most database systems should be able to do it.
Yes, Salesforce has very strong of taking information from other systems. The integration is quite strong. Now, I want to thank everyone for joining. Ashley, do you want to say anything else before we close?
Yeah, I do want to apologise. There was a little bit of interference and also a little bit of lagging as well with some of the screens. So apologies and thank you for bearing with us. Obviously, we're going to ensure that everybody receives a recording, so that if you've missed anything or if there's anything at all that you want to ask afterwards, feel free to get in touch. But we will be providing a recording as well, just so that you're able to review some of the things that weren't necessarily as clear. So thank you all so much for joining and also for all your questions as well.
And thank you, Sarah, thank you, Katie, and thank you all for giving us 45 minutes of your time today. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Tottenham, is it possible if I ask a quick question? Is that possible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, can you leave it open for people that want to ask me questions? I'm happy to take questions.
Everybody's mics are on, so yeah. Was that a question from Jason?
Yeah.
Firstly, that was really good. Really useful. Really enjoyed that. So thank you very much for just sharing and being so sort of candid and honest with that. So thank you ever so much. It was just a question that's really great from a kind of quantitative kind of analysis perspective. What do you use Salesforce and the Shona for the more sort of the softer sort of analysis, the qualitative stuff as well, or do you have separate systems and processes for that?
No, so what we're doing, so basically, so at the moment, most of the stuff is the quantitative stuff, yeah, all the numbers. What we're doing increasingly now, because as we know, there's one thing about numbers and being able to do all your numbers. Actually now, if you think of the theory of change that we're all doing, our overall goals and our outlook are much more about where people's headspace is. Are they more better self-efficacy, more confidence and things like that? So that is all being built in now. Now, I know the time is really brief, but with the Move for You ones, and I'll use that as an example, because remember I talked about they're doing 4 questionnaires. And in fact, we do this, in fact, all on here, we can access them, are the kids' voices. You know the kids' voices, so you ask them at the beginning certain questions and you ask them through. All of that's on there as well. In the Move for You one, those questions that they're asked about their health, they also include how do you feel at the moment? Sorry, I don't know why Mr. Williams is calling me when he knows I'm on the call. Sorry. Sorry, I just had to. I'd have to turn your boss off, Aisha. So with the Move for You, it asks some questions not only about their weight, but how confident do they feel about going outside, or so certain questions linked, because that program came from a cancer, either just being diagnosed and getting fitter before you have your operation and going through your treatment, or once they're having treatment afterwards. So it's very much about understanding how they're feeling and what their goals were, and their goal may have been, somebody's goal may have been to actually to be able to feel confident enough to be able to go back to work. And so we measure that in there, so we can pull out all of that. But as you know, so what it's really good for is capturing that and reporting it. But that analysis that we do it ourselves with that information.
Brilliant. And very last question: do you have an analysis or an insight to lead within the organisation, or is it really down to the managers and the sort of heads of service, etc.? That is my last question, I promise.
Sorry, Jason, can you say that again? I didn't quite hear it.
Yeah, it's just whether you have an insight or analysis lead within the foundation, or whether you lead that down to the sort of heads of service and sort of project managers?
No, so what we've got is, so I've recruited somebody, he's actually doing a PhD now, he's part-time with us, who is basically a data analysis. He loves trends, he loves analysing data and all of that, so that's what he uses it for. We use it a lot, particularly at the moment, we use it a lot around our EDI, actually. It is a fantastic tool for our EDI. Now, when we started this off, and so when we started off, it might say, so let's just pretend we have 10,000 participants. We now have just tightened up our process. So we want all participants, and this is by using the Dropbox, they have to state something. They either state their ethnicity or they put prefer not to say. Whereas before we didn't have a prefer not to say. So it might be we had 10,000. Well, sorry, we did have a prefer not to say, but it wasn't a mandatory box to complete. So that we might have had 10,000 participants. We might have only had ethnicity data for 7,000. Now what we've done is made it that participants, when they register with us, they have to either put in their ethnicity or put prefer not to say before they can actually register. It's mandatory. So now we can guarantee that we can tell everything about our participants if they've been prepared to disclose it. So, yeah.
That's a thumbs up.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you
Anything
so much.
else is coming up?
No, I think that is everything. Unless anybody else has any final questions. Just want to check the chat. No, that's it. So yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's one. There's one that's just come through.
Yeah.
Can you see that one, Sarah? At Palace, we use Salesforce for our NCS program, and all of the quantitative and qualitative data is captured where, like Sarah says, we're able to track whether young people have developed more confidence, self-efficacy, etc. Everything is tracked as long as the staff updates the information about outputs and feedbacks from young people and parents. This means less formal reports at the end of the program. Brilliant.
Yes, yeah. No, it's a good point. Yeah, so basically there, I think everything, so with the electronic form is absolutely fantastic. You can create any questionnaire, any information, and it will get put into Salesforce. So you can extract it as you want for any reporting. And I'll use an example. So we're the same as probably many of you there, having to now get a focus on what we're doing for environmental sustainability. We've just started our journey on this. We've had some people come in and help us raise our awareness as staff. So we've now created an electronic form that we want staff to complete. And we do some little things to try and encourage 100% completion rate by staff to get an understanding of sustainability from their personal perspective, from how they can contribute to work and how they can contribute in their projects to it. All of that information will go into Salesforce and enable us to pull it out as well for our reports and our analytics. Okay, all good to go?
I think so. Thank you so much, Sarah. We've run on a little bit, but yeah.
No problem at all. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. I'll speak to you
Thanks a
soon.
lot, Sarah.
Okay.
Been amazing. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Thanks.